Hello and welcome to the Asian American Forward podcast. My name is Katie Simpson and I'm here, of course, with my regular co-host, Don. Don, good to talk to you again this week.
Katie, nice to see you again.
And I think there's might even be a bird in your bird feeder in the background. So that is nice. And you've got your coffee. I finished my coffee already today, but it's just a nice, casual conversation between the two of us today. And we are talking about something that has been on your mind that you wanted to kind of process through. So I'm excited to just sort of like have a nice casual sort of political philosophy back and forth conversation. Take me back to my college days studying political science. And so we're talking about trying to understand why new immigrants are sometimes attracted to Republican or conservative kind of political philosophy and viewpoints, particularly since there's this growing perception of the Democratic Party as a big tent party that is more racially diverse and more economically diverse than the Republican Party. At the same time, there were a lot of stories coming out of the election, particularly about, I would say, recent Chinese American immigrants and also Venezuelan American immigrants kind of being attracted to Trump, and Trump's numbers among non-white Americans even being slightly better, even though he lost the election, being slightly better this time around than they were in 2016. So we're kind of going to dig into all of the issues surrounding that also, because that's something very personal to you, Don, right?
Yeah, I think this question has been mangling in my mind for a long time. So I try to recall what's my immigration, the process, both in the culturally, politically, economically. So it's very originally when I came to this country during the late 80s and early 90s, all my mentality is exactly the same. And the most new immigrant, Chinese immigrant come in this country at this moment, and they support Trump. So I try to recall what's the mentality during that time, and why and how I transform me to current status. I take myself as the independent at this moment. Both I can take both the liberals' viewpoint and also conservative point. I remember while I'm in the college, the first book I touched in the library. Our library has been closed for almost 25 years, and then they reopened. So I went to the library. The book I found is The Road to the Survey, the written by Hayek. That's the very conservative of the book, and I couldn't believe it's in China. You can find the book there. So Hayek is almost the icon for the conservative thought and economics, and also it's in politics. So his thought is almost dominated in China for 20 years, and then when Milton Friedman visited China, and then Milton Friedman explored Hayek's a lot of thought to play the seed into most youth or young generation of economics. So we suddenly looking for what's the dictatorship in the political system, and also what's the freedom in the market dominated countries' economy and economic institution. That's the very original. I was built into to bring me into the camp of a conservative. And also when I moved to this country, all the Republican philosophy or their political viewpoint toward the society and encourage people work hard, and industry is the very fit to our generation's philosophy. That's where original beginning. So I started to join the Republican Club and the Republican parties and vote for Republican. But in California, there's no chance for any Republican to stand by or win the election. So I'm thinking it's a merely philosophical or principle is a fit in your mind. Is there any chance you can do something really can make an impact to change the society? So I start to outreach to the Democratic Party's friend. And also, it's a lot of elected officials in California, or especially Asian elected officials. They lean very liberal and Democratic Party. So I started working with them. And then later I found that there's not much bad things for the liberals. And then it's a socially, they care about the minority, they care about the human rights, they try to help the people in need. And then I start thinking the economics and also social policies. So somehow you need to find a point where you can balance both sides. So that I start getting involved in the local politics and then working with both sides. Gradually, I found the Republican, I couldn't find too much alliance there. There's not many people I can talk to. And also when you join the Republican club, that's most of them. It's a white Caucasian guy and they're very gentle. They always have a tie. When you talk to them, they just say hi very politely. But when you try to grab a power within Democratic Party, you couldn't even think of anyone with an Asian face to be in power or it's the control anything, except they are kind of an ATM machine. So whenever they need the money, they come into you. After donation, you have nothing. So you couldn't make any decision within Republican Party. The most trend after Trump becoming president is the language and also the message delivered to the country is pretty hostile to the all immigrant, regardless you're Asian or Black or it's the people with special need. That's the totally inhuman. That's in my viewpoint. To understanding most Asian or Chinese immigrant why they support Trump, I think it's probably at the very beginning similar like me. We believe in if you work hard and raise family and make a decent living, you'll be good. And then you start sending your kids to the elite school. And then you become a socialist, climbing the ladder into the upper level and they enjoy life, enjoy freedom there. So that's the something I can draw the conclusion. That's basic for me to start to understand these people.
Yeah, I mean, there's like so much to unpack there. But the first question I have is just like a practical one, which is, so when you moved to the US in the late 80s, you were living in Pennsylvania, right? And who was the president?
I think it's Bush, I think.
Bush Sr.?
Yeah, Bush Sr.
Oh, yeah, no, I was just curious if you were like around for like sort of the Reagan Republican Party versus like sort of, I feel like the Republican Party has kind of evolved from that in my lifetime, like especially with the rise of the Tea Party in the mid, aughts around, 2008, 2010. And so I was just curious. But I also wanted to ask about like sort of when you became a citizen, do you think that was sort of what started changing your perspective? Or was it like a more gradual kind of process of just like talking to people and realizing maybe that your own political values kind of aligned more closely with more, I don't like the word liberal because I feel like it carries a lot of meanings now that are like not all helpful, but I don't really want to use the word left either. So I guess I'm going to say more progressive political philosophy.
It's actually my thoughts and the process is very, very gradual. So even today, I still couldn't say I'm 100% accept a progressive or liberal view of point because Sometimes you think they probably put too much government resources into the certain interest group, and we can see it's a minority. We help them, we hand out to them. That's kind of things I still reserve some of my viewpoint, but in general, I can fully understand where they're coming from and where the policy, how the policy coming out. The totally is at this moment, uh, I I personally view it's that we want to build a better society, regardless if you're in China or here. If you have some, I cannot say it's ambition, but it's a kind of a dream, how we view of this country and how we view the society. When you want to do something, you have to find some standpoint where you started. So I used to try to write something or talk something. And gradually, I feel there's so many people they can talk, they can write, but we're less people. They can do things and make an event happen. And those kind of things are more challenging, raise money for the politician you like. So I gradually started to do I've been in the Cupertino for Planning Commission for 8 years. That's volunteers work. You decided all the cases regarding land development. And also I try to culturally to working with local community like a historical society, chamber of commerce, Rotary Club. So I have attended all the local events and try to incorporate my cultural background or my knowledge with all the local other ethnic group. By this way, I can say what I have done is a more realistic, more pragmatic to push the society melt down all together to understand the culture of each other. That's the one side. On the political side, I think when you get into each level's legislation process, you can see from idea to the law, there's a long process. So gradually you learn each step and you know how to negotiate with a different interest group and put things together and try to find not make everyone happy, but the majority of people they happy. And also it's very efficient to put a bill together. That's why I like working with the state legislatures and also it's federal levels. That's when I think most new immigrant should, or I can see the trend. They start to learn. And at the very beginning, most people, they are Republican or they are very conservative. They always shouting out, say, we like a Republican. But when you really get involved in the local matters, local issues, the people are going to learn. You have to compromise at some point if you want to change something. That's the lessons I learned in this country. And also I love the beauty of this democratic process. It's so beautiful.
What was the first presidential, or I guess not even presidential, what's the first election you voted in ever? Do you remember?
Yeah, I think that's the 1994. I couldn't remember, or 92. I couldn't remember. So probably it's a Bush.
You also pointed out, so there's like this sort of tension. I think that is a very common tension in general in American politics, which is sort of between the like sort of economic considerations versus the sort of like social policy and kind of cultural issues. And so I am wondering also if you have noticed differences in how like new immigrants kind of interpret those distinctions and issues versus, native born Americans or even just people who have been in the US for longer.
Yeah, I think there's one factor affect all new immigrants is about their security, because it's a new immigrant, they don't have any tie or any connection or relatives in this country. So it's when something happened to them, they have nowhere to call for help. So that's the one thing is going to decide it. They have to work very hard to build the wealth and make money and make sure it's enough money to secure their life and also secure their children's future. That's very, very different. It's most people like you, your family, you have a so long time in each the friends circle, and the people trust each other, have a family, relatives, everything is network is here. That's your home. But new immigrant, they start taking this country as a home, but they don't have any connection. They cannot seek the help when there's something happen. That's the background for them. At this moment, they just try to intend to look internally, now seeking outside. In that way, they build their philosophy is that I have to do everything myself, and then they don't have a time or it's a resource or money to help others. So that's the fundamental. And in long term, they become very isolated, or it's very only limited to their Chinese community or Vietnamese community or their individually, and then focus on their children. Gradually, they probably going to expand their network into the PTA or it's, the colleagues, those kind of, but it's still very limited. In general, it's a community. To them, it's the totally new things. They never have a chance, or it's a very less chance to extend their network. But the reason the anti-Asian immigrant, the crisis, tragedy incidents happen, so I think it's a kind of wake-up call. They start to realize that if you only focus on yourself, you're going to sooner or later you're going to get in trouble. So that's the kind of things that I think in the next 6 months or 1 year, something is going to happen in the mentality of an entire Asian or Chinese new immigrant. They are going to change.
Hmm. That will be definitely very interesting to watch unfold and to see if your predictions come true. I'm also wondering then, like, how do we help to build those connections? I mean, even as a person who's like moved from different communities in the U.S. I've lived in the Midwest, I've lived in the South, I've lived in New England, I've now lived in California, and all of those places are so different. And so I feel like I can kind of relate to that like experience of going somewhere and feeling like I have no connections, and how am I going to like sort of develop roots in these places? So do you have advice for new immigrants, but also just for community members in general on like how to sort of like start building those bridges and connections that can kind of foster trust and relationships?
There's a two sides. The number one is on the your thinking process, the mentality you have to build. So it's when you see the Google, Facebook, and the Amazon, all those big corporations, originally so we think is if we promote the individual success, sooner or later, the money is going to back to the majority of people. They create the jobs, they generate the wealth.
Right, trickle down economics.
Yeah, trickle down economy. But
Yeah.
later you found that this monopolized the big giant corporation. They never can trickle down the economy. They just build the monopoly for themselves, for their dream, and do something else. But in general, it's very, very hard to trickle down the economy. And if you think this way, you're going to looking for 80% American people or regular people. We call them normal people. They are suffering. They don't have a future, especially for the young people. You see the money they make now, very, very few elite, the college graduates, they can make the money like their parents, and they can live the very relaxed lifestyle, enjoy work, and also enjoy the leisure time. And this time is the people below 30, they kind of are struggling. and the very like a 10%, 20% people, they are very good. But 80% of the young people, they're struggling. They don't see their future just like their parents. So that's kind of things is I want all the new immigrants to start thinking, but it's pretty hard to change this mentality. But at least people can think this way. The second thing is in terms of practice, when you participate in the PTA, in the history, in the culture, but not limited to your ethnic group. You extend it to the Indian American, you extend it Black American, Korean American, Vietnamese American, Caucasian American, and then white. And then you can feel majority people or other ethnic group, they open their arms, welcome you to join. They want to know you, they want to learn from you. So it's the when you learn something, they learn something from you as well. So it's the very, very good dynamic. If you commit like 2 years or 3 years, 5 years, mingle with your neighbors, with all the societies, and then you can feel your mind or your vision is totally different. And then you start to do some volunteer work, to do some leadership work. Because most times when I join the community, all kind of organization, I just don't go there to physically present there or just hand out the food or pantry. Is you always think is that I can do something bigger than be a member. So you can be the leader in all kind of organization as long as you show your capacity. So very easy. People don't refuse you be the leader. That's kind of things most new immigrant should or can be go that direction. And most time you should enjoy this kind of innovative way in the social change.
What is something that you feel like I'm curious about a lesson that you've learned from like American culture or even some other not even, it doesn't have to be broader American culture. It could be something that you've learned from Vietnamese Americans or Polish Americans. Like what's something, a lesson that really stands out to you in your mind that you're like, I wouldn't have learned this if I hadn't put myself out there and like really mingled with my community.
Okay, each ethnic group or small community, if you involve politics, there's a big lesson you have to listen. You have to learn because it's a politician. They do not produce a concrete product like a chair, cell phone. The only thing, the credit that they can take is some kind of event or some kind of bill or some kind of a concept. So you need to learn how to give this resource or this the credit to your people. For me, it's as long as certain things happen or it's achieved, I always want to share the credit. I never want to say, "Oh, this is what I need. This is what I got." And also the second thing is that money is always the number one priority for me. So it's whenever I design or think anything, the number one thing is don't bullshit to talk ideas. Just think where the money is, who is going to support you with this money. So you have to selling the good ideas to the people they eager to sponsor you or support you. Even the politician, you have to help them to raise money, and then you build your network from small to bigger. Trust is number one. So it's be the honest people, try to help them, support each other. The people going to sooner or later they're going to know what your capacity, what's the limitation, and what kind of person you are. So I think it's for me, I do enjoy all the political talk and the political action, and also I do see some kind of a dark side of politics. But it's okay as long as you move the city, move the community forward. The dark side or something small things or trivial things are going to pass because you always try to put a little bit of larger goal I think it's I call it a realistic uh, utopian society in
Mm-hmm.
your mind, and then it's the build the friendship and the trust with all the people. You should be good. I enjoy this country. Take this as my home. I want to do something for this country as well. It's just so good compared with my hometown China. There people there is good, but the political system is I really don't like it. That's why I try to use every minute I'm in this country, learn
Mm-hmm.
the politics, learn the law, learn the people, and try to do something back to this society. Thank you.
No, thank you. I also, as someone who's like interested in media, and the way like we as a society sort of talk about issues, I'm really want to like kind of also hone in on how this issue is related to kind of trends in polarization and how we're getting our information. Something that really strikes me as something that kind of is a commonality between new immigrants and older Americans is just sort of their like news diet. I was talking with a friend this week who is an ABC, so her parents are from China, but she was born here in the US, and she was like, can you my mom thinks that the Capitol riots, like she thinks they were Democrats dressed as up as Republicans. And where is she getting this? And I'm like, listen, my grandparents have said the same thing. Like they watch so much Fox News. Like I'm from Tennessee. I've heard it all. And so I'm also like, what do you think that is, that there's this similarity here? Or what do
Yeah,
you
I
make
think
of
it's
that?
yeah, and I think it's most majority Chinese or Asian the media outlet in this country, they are very, very conservative. The reason is the most, like Vietnamese, the Taiwanese or mainland China, their media is all coming from very background, from the same background. It's a very, very dictatorship. So it's from there they build their political philosophy. It's totally based on the political justice and the legal system, law and order. So it's in terms in word, okay, but not in practice. So it's I cannot say them propaganda. That's what they are believing. But for me, I just try to find the middle ground between the left and the right and try to talk based on the facts. And also it's tell them from my personal experience, if you want to accomplish something and your philosophy have to change, it's a merely stick with the Republican philosophy or conservative thought doesn't solve any problem in this country. Most people they believe in something, but in the practice they totally different. So that's the kind of uh, ABC young generation with their parents. I see almost every family they fight within the family. They fight. They said, "Oh my God, I send 100,000, quarter million, send you to the Harvard, Princeton, Yale. Oh, it's a progressive university, and you're coming back, blame me as the conservative and criticize my value. It's our value system is totally different with the young generation's value. That's the trouble they're coming from. But gradually, I see a lot of parents that they start changing. If they get involved by themselves to this society, to the community, they're going to
Mm.
change.
Yeah, I also like really liked what you said about personal experience and being able to speak from that. I think that's really important also to understand, even just for anyone talking to any other person who disagrees with them, is to be able to like sort of trace those, how they're coming to the conclusions that they're coming to about politics and society and the world from their own personal experience. And I think when you look at it from that angle, there's a lot less judgment and a lot more understanding for other people. So I think that's like so important also to consider. I also wanted to ask you, since we love to talk about books on this show, if there was a book or two that you feel like was really crucial to your like political development and understanding as you've kind of like come to the US and had your like mindset sort of change?
For the book, I just recently read it. I think that's called uh, Utopian for Realistic World. So that's the book is talking about how extreme socialism, where it's coming from, and how it's evolved until to the today, and apply the capitalism and the trickle up economy. That's kind of a book. It's really at the middle. So they combine the polarized socialism south, where it's coming from, and also compare with the current failure of the communism. They try to practice utopian countries, and then talking about the North European country, how they implement the social welfare and with the taxation structure change and the future of this country. Because this country is where we see a lot of people suffering, but not to the point yet. So it's this book is going to talk about as a realistic or pragmatic person, how you do something to change the world. I enjoy that really.
Um, is there also I'm gonna ask for another book recommendation because I just like love talking about books. Um,
Yeah.
I'm also curious if you have like um a list or one or two or even just one books that you recommend to new immigrants to the US as like read this book, this will help you understand America. If there's a
I
book to you
think
that's like quintessentially American.
yeah, if people have any patience to read books, I recommend read most either Supreme Court justices biography,
Uh-huh.
or read the Obama's the biography he wrote by himself. It's
Hmm.
the language is beautiful, and also it's there have a lot of exploration of how he think, how he thought, and how he made a decision on all the policy. This is a very recent experience for most new immigrant. They can still remember, and also it's a lot of people they don't like Obama, but if you read his book and think about how he made a decision, you'll be benefited from this reading.
Yeah, sort of that same theme of like understanding how people's
Yes.
perspectives and decisions are shaped by their
Yeah.
experience. I'm interested that you didn't recommend a novel, though. I thought that's what you would do.
The novel just for my personal experience. It's the whom I'm reading to, right?
Yeah. Okay, so I have to ask the opposite question now, which is what would you recommend to like native born Americans? What book would you recommend to them to help them understand their immigrant neighbors better?
That Obama's book is I think it's the best one. It's for the Rising Star. For the new immigrant one, and I don't say which book is the best one. So at this moment, I didn't feel there's any book for people can read. The very very old book I think is to help a Chinese new immigrant is the pearls, the good earth.
The Good
That's one.
Earth.
Yeah, good earth. That's the book. I think if every Chinese they can read this one, they can view American from exactly opposite. It's a
Mhm.
white Caucasian girl went to China, lived there, and she wrote about China. So it's if you read her book, and then instead of coming back to this country, you can have some different contrast how you think. It's a totally different cultural stuff. That's the things that I want to recommend. I read that book, and it's really helped me to understand this country.
Wait, is it set in China or set in the US?
No, understand in this country, but you
Ah,
read Pearl's book, Good Earth. She wrote about China,
uh-huh.
but when you read her book, because it's a totally different angle. to view
On
the
China,
different
yeah.
world on China. So it's you can exactly understand when we coming to this country, and then it's observe all the detailed lifestyle, the stories, and the relationship. You can feel, oh yeah, you can see totally different angle to see your life here.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's a great note to end on. I think we've ended on Pearl S. Buck before, so it's just like I'm kicking myself that I haven't gone to the bookstore yet to look for The Good Earth. I have such a huge stack of books next to my bed, though. As you know, we're working on like a 700 pager for this show. I don't know when I'm going to have that finished, but that will be fun for our audience when they finally get to hear us be really confused about Murakami.
I like Murakami's book. I enjoy reading it every day, and because I used to like a painting, draw the picture myself. So
you were a painter.
I'm not a painter. I just like it. And maybe someday I'll draw something for the next show when we talk about that book. So it's the mental process and also description of the artist. I feel so close. I feel so good.
I'm glad you're enjoying it. I'm enjoying it too. I just like can only read very short chunks of it at a time.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's fun to, if you like painting, you should get up to San Francisco. The museums have like just recently reopened. So,
okay.
Yeah. Well, anything else you want to add while we're still here?
Not much. I think this episode we try to focus on the understanding of a new immigrant, how they form their conservative thought, and I believe gradually, I think it's more economically, and then combined with the social philosophy, social justice, people are going to find some common ground in this country, and also there is a gap between the generation. I think very quickly they're going to, after their children graduate from school, maybe within 3 to 5 years, the parent and the children's relationship are going to merge to the similar direction. I cannot say exactly same, but it's going to have some common ground, hopefully.
Well, common ground is always the hope and better understanding. And I hope that we've at least contributed to that a little bit today, but we will wrap it up there for this week. Don, thanks as usual.
Thank you, Katie.
My name is Katie Simpson. Our podcast is sponsored by Asian American Forward. You can visit our website at www.asianamericanforward.com. If you enjoyed the show this week or have a topic you'd like to hear us discuss on a future episode, send us your comments at info@asianamericanforward.com. We'd love to hear from you. You can also find us on Facebook and hear more conversations between Don and I at our YouTube channel, which you should also subscribe to. If you're a fan of the show, leave us a review in the Apple Podcast store or tell someone about us. It really helps people find the show. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you. Bye.